Hello everyone and welcome to my coloring corner. Today is Monday view. Sorry, I have been away for a while. I have not been feeling well. I'm not feeling 100%, so if I start sniffling, I do apologize. But we weren't able to do our collection selection on Saturday because I wasn't feeling well, so I didn't stream. But one of the ones that I definitely wanted to get done during our watercolor month was the Inktense and the Graphitint. I'm going to use these together. They do work very nicely together. And the book that we're going to be working in is The Witch's Cottage. So we're going to pick a picture tonight in The Witch's Cottage, and that is what we're going to work from. We're going to work on. I've got two pictures in mind, and hopefully we'll be able to work them. So the Inktense pencils are a very interesting pencil. They are a Derwent product. They are a water soluble product, and when you add water to them or alcohol or anything like that, it activates, and when it activates and dries, it becomes permanent, just like ink. So they are a very interesting pencil to work with to build color as well as doing your gradients and things like that. So I'm going to play with them here a little bit. I've got my chart here, and I'm going to switch it over, hopefully not knock everything off my desk. My desk is a complete and utter mess because I haven't been feeling well, so I haven't been doing much of anything. I've got a ton of projects on the go from last week as well as the week before, so I'm pretty much clustered at the moment. I don't like having a lot of works in progress, and I have a lot of works in progress because I was sick. So we're also going to be coloring in Art Matters by Chris Riddell and Neil Gaiman. This was written by Neil Gaiman. The illustrations are done by Chris Riddell, and we will be coloring in that with the Evizar London colored pencils that I got in last week. That was a gift from my husband that I haven't got to play with a whole lot. So we are going to play with those. Alright, so here is the Graphitints, and as you can see, the Graphitints are a water-based, water-soluble product again, and they have a really gray undertone to them. So when you're using them in conjunction with the Derwent Inktense, you can use them as shadow colors and that sort of thing. Now, the Graphitints are not permanent once you've put them down. So if you want to use these with these, you would have to use these first and then use these. Because if you use these first and then use these will activate or reactivate your Graphitints. Now, the one problem with water-soluble products is that you have to make sure that you activate the entire product on the page. Otherwise, you're going to end up with product still on the page that you're going to end up activating. So we're going to grab this one here. It's a wonderful blue. This is iris blue. And we're going to just color an area. And I'm just going to bring it down, lightening my hand as I go. And I'm going to activate this. I'm going to show you the different ways that you can activate this, as well as build color with it. So again, just lightening my hand as I go. Now, I've got quite a bit of color on there. Now we're going to activate this with an alcohol marker. Now this will stain your marker, so if you have color on your marker already, make sure that you wipe that off. My marker was dirty. There. So I'm going to just turn the page so that and as you can see, it activates it just fine. It spreads it out. The one thing I do find with using the alcohol-based marker is it does pick it up a little bit, and you do need to re-establish some of it. So that's with the alcohol marker. And like I said, it does blend it very nicely. It does activate it. Now another way to activate these is with your Tombow blender marker. Now the Tombow blender marker is a water-based product. Again, just building the color. So I'm actually going to take my pencil here and we're going to put alcohol marker here and Tombow blender here, just so that we can see which one activates them the best. I personally like just straight old water. But sometimes, depending upon the book you're working in or the paper you're working on, sometimes water is not the best option because it does crinkle the page. Just going to put one more layer down. And once this dries, I'll show you how you can build the color on it where it won't reactivate. Okay, now we're going to take our Tombow brush marker. Again, make sure that your brush is clean. And you do have to make sure that you activate all of it. So I'm just activating and dragging it around. Now it does drag further with the Tombow. Just activating that edge. And it doesn't seem to lift up as much. I think it's much brighter with the Tombow myself. So far the Tombow seems to be winning. Alright, and then with the watercolor. So this is just straight water. Again, we're going to build the color up a little. And this set has a really good a selection of color in it. I do find that you can pretty much color everything if you have the full set. They are coming out with a new bunch of colors, which I will, of course, put on my wish list as soon as they hit Amazon availability, because I do really like the Inktense, because of the factor that I don't have to use water with them if I don't want to, and the factor of that they are permanent when I do activate them. Okay, so now I'm just going to use straight water. And as you can see, the water activates a lot. Spreads a lot further. Just making sure I activate everything. So if you can still see a shadow of your line there, that tells me that it's not activated. Now, if it wasn't for the fact that it wrinkles the paper, I would prefer to use water with these because it does seem to spread it a little bit further. So I'm just going to make sure that I've activated everything on here. So as you can see, going over it with the water after I've activated it, it doesn't move around. So this one here I activated with the alcohol. Now I'm just going to go over it with the water. And as you can see, it doesn't move whatsoever. So as long as you activate all of your ink, it's not going to move. Personally, I like water, but the Tombow also seems to do the best with activating and having that color remain. Now we're going to go back over the alcohol marker one, because I do find with the alcohol marker you can layer that up. You can build that up. So when using the alcohol marker, I find that the best application is to do one layer, blend it, do your next layer, blend it. And that way when you go to use your when you have your final color, it's a lot brighter. Now the paper is not taking to that water that I put down very well, so it's having issues. Seems my marker had some green on it. But as you can see, you can build that color up. Now, in order to dry these, as you know, with the alcohol marker, you don't need to dry it. It's going to dry on its own. Same with the Tombow watercolor marker. However, with the water, you can, of course, dry that with your heat gun. All right, so we're going to take a look at the color range. So we have a really good selection of yellows into our oranges and then into our reds. It has a really good selection of red tones for a watercolor, for a Derwent product, first of all, but for a watercolor product, it has a really good range of red. Also has a really good range of purples into our blues. Now the blues I think are a little bit of overkill, but there are some blues here at the start that are on the purple range as well. And then into our C type greens here, into our greens. Again, the greens, a lot more green in here than say purple or red. And then into our green browns, and then into our browns and our grays. So it has a really, really good selection of colors. It even has white, which is awesome. And it actually works as a white. It comes out really well as white. I have done these pictures on the bottom here with the Inktense with using water for one, alcohol marker for another, and Tombow for another. Now, running my finger over it, the Tombow and the alcohol marker are very smooth. But if I run my fingers over top of the water, it has a bit of a texture from the paper objecting to the water. So, because it's a coloring book that I haven't used before that we're going to be using with these, I will test a small area with each type of product and see what works best in that book. I think we're going to probably end up going with the Tombow because of the fact that it not only has the brush, but it also has a fine point. So getting into those little tiny areas is going to be quite easy. Now another thing that you can do with the Tombow, or not with the Tombow, with the Derwent pencils is you can color on your palette. Then take your water brush and activate that and pick it up. So I'm just going to pick up that color with my brush, and then we'll put it right here. So as you can see, you can activate that, pick it up, and put it down as well. And build the color up. So all of those different things works very well. You can also take the shavings of your pencil and utilize those on your palette as well, so that nothing really goes to waste, which is also a great thing about the water-based products. Now for the Graphitints, I'm going to do those on here as well, just because I have it out. So I'm going to test the Graphitints and see if we can have them activate as well with the Tombow. So let's do Graphitint. Okay, so I'm going to activate this, and then I'm going to also add it to, we're going to play with the Graphitint, and then we'll see how it adds to the Inktense. So again, just building the color. And like I said, the one thing with the Graphitint is that it is not an ink base like the Inktense is. So you will find that it will reactivate if you try to put water on top of it. Alright, so I'm going to make sure that the Tombow is clean. So it does activate with the Tombow, which is great. So I can definitely utilize it with. Now with the Tombow, it doesn't seem to spread as far as it would with water. So let's try this with water. So that was Tombow. We'll try it with the alcohol and then also with the water. Just building the color up. Making sure I have an even coverage. And then we're going to take our alcohol marker. Again, wipe it off. Make sure it's clean. I have a bit of a yellow in there, but that's fine. Also activates with the marker. However, with the marker, it doesn't spread either, so that it's pretty much exactly where you put it is where it's going to stay, which is perfectly fine as well. That is actually a good thing for many different applications. So that's the alcohol marker. And now last but not least, we'll do some water. Just building the color up. Now I could press hard and just mash it into the paper, but I want to leave some of that. When I'm coloring, I don't do that because I don't want to use up all the paper, and doing it this way for a swatch actually keeps you in practice of being a little bit frugal while you're while you're coloring. I always swatch the way I color because that gives me the best idea of what color I'm going to end up with. Now with the water, I'm finding that it moves a lot more and it seems to be a lot brighter. That blue is coming out a lot more than it did with the other ones. Still can't move it very far. My brush isn't all that wet either, so. But definitely has more of that blue color than the other two. The Tombow is not too bad, but the alcohol marker, I'm not sure if that's because my marker's dirty or what, but the black came out more than the Inktense, or than the ink. The black came out more than the color. Sorry, guys. Sometimes my brain just doesn't work. All right, so we're going to use our Inktense first. And we're going to color a whole area here. Then we're going to activate it with our Tombow. So I don't want to put any more water on this page because of the fact that it is my swatch chart. And the swatch chart is on the other side of this page. Hello, Mr. Choo Choo. Do apologize if I'm very breathy. Like I said, I'm not at 100% yet, but I am doing much better. But I do have a bit of a sinus congestion, which does make it a little bit harder for me to talk and breathe at the same time. So I am taking big breaths so that I can talk. All right, so we're going to activate this with the Tombow. Then I'm going to go the other way, make sure that all of it is fully activated. And then I'm going to let that dry for a minute. And while that's drying, I'm going to take my Graphitint here. And I'm just going to give it a quick little sharpen. Now I'm using the Mr. Pen sharpener for this in the large hole. I've designated one of my Mr. Pen sharpeners just for watercolor. And of course it is the aquatic green color. Just waiting for that to dry. That's going to take a little bit longer. Dry, dry. If I used the alcohol marker, it would dry quite quickly. All right, so now we're going to put a shadow on the lower part of this. And I'm going to come down underneath it. Like I said, the Inktense area isn't quite dry yet. So I can feel the paper under the pencil. Feels like it's, you know how when you color on or write on wet paper that it's going to tear or feel. That's what it feels like. Feels like I might have to redo my Inktense swatch chart is what it feels like. All right, so that's as far as I'm going to go with that. Now I'm going to take the Tombow again, and I'm going to move that in activating that dark area. And moving that into the Inktense. See how that gives it that shadow. And the Inktense doesn't move because it's already been activated. Like so. And that's what I'm going to be using the two products together for, is building that shadow as well as that color combination. All right, wipe that off. Now, just for giggles, I'm going to let that dry, and then we're going to take a red. Let's see, poppy red. No, I don't want poppy red. That's too orange. Chili red. And we're going to go into the blue here. Now, if this is dry enough, this should not change color with the red. It should just show darker underneath it, but it shouldn't change the red to purple or the blue to purple. Now I'm just touching the edge of it because, like I said, it is still a little bit wet. Now, if this was completely dry, other than the darkness underneath it from the blue, it should not change color. All right, so we're going to activate the red. And as you can see, there's a little bit of a purple there. So I don't think I let that dry long enough. Could have done this with yellow too. So it does blend as well. Now, typically when you're blending the alcohol or the Inktense, I would suggest blending it before you activate it. All right, so if we were to take that red and put down a layer of the red, so that's the chili red, and then take the blue before activating it, and then color those together like so. When we activate it, those areas there should be purple. All right, now we're going to just take our marker. See how it just blends into that purple there. So like I said, as you can see, it does blend and create another color if you do it before you, like when you blend your colors together before you activate. Now it did blend it here a little bit, but that's because that was still wet when I put the color down. If I had let it dry completely, like for example this one here, I think this one here is dry enough. So if I go over this, it should just show up darker underneath, unless I do a really dark area. So let's do a little heavy. The paper is still feeling wet underneath, even with the alcohol marker one. Not the best paper to do this with. So. And even though you can see the line underneath from the blue, it doesn't change the color of the red. So the red it's not bleeding that purple into the red. So even though you've got the shadow of the blue underneath it, you don't have that blue in the red like you do here, where that blue is right into the red. And you can spread it around. All right, so those are what we will be using this week. Like I said, they are the Derwent Inktense. I do have the full set. I also have the full set of the Derwent Graphitint. So we will be using those together in the Witch's Cottage. Like I said, I have picked out a couple of different pictures that I think would work very well for our coloring for the week. And hopefully we can get it done, because I have too many work in progresses as it is, and I don't like work in progresses. So I'm going to switch you back over to the main camera here. And again, like I said, we've got some great yellows, some wonderful reds, fantastic purples, and I think the purples in this, in conjunction with the purples in the Graphitints, these ones here, are going to work very, very well for the Witch's Cottage. And then, of course, we've got our blues, into our greens, into our browns, and then into our grays and blacks. So I think we have enough colors in the two sets to build a good amount of depth and color. All right, so that is what we are going to be doing. And again, like I said, there are many different ways to activate your Inktense. You can use an alcohol marker. You can use a Tombow water-based brush marker, or any type of water-based blender brush. You can also use water and just a paintbrush or a water brush, or you can put it on a palette and pick it up and paint it on here. Now, as you can see, by picking it up off the palette, it is a lot thinner of a wash, because you don't have that concentration of ink in one spot that you're dragging down. This is one concentration of ink picked up off the palette. With the Graphitints, you can also activate with the Tombow, the alcohol marker, or the water. I do find that water and the Tombow works best for these. You can blend both the Graphitint and the Inktense together. And if you go over the Inktense with another color, you are going to get a shadow, but you're not going to drag that color into your next color. You can also blend those colors together to create another color by going over top of each other before activating. And as you can see, even over top of alcohol marker, the Tombow did not activate any of that underlying color. All right, so that is it for the Inktense and the Graphitint. Those are what we will be using. And of course, I will be streaming at 6:30 this evening. So I'm going to put these away for now, and we're going to pull out our Art Matters and our Eva's our London pencils. And let's see here. Our Art Matters that we completed last week was this one here. Again, I'm not going to do watercolor in this book. I'm just not going to. It would just make a mess. So I have been choosing different colored pencils that I have been using with the marker, the watercolor. All right, so the page we're going to be working on is this one here. It says, first of all, when you start out on a career in the arts, you have no idea what you're doing. This is great. People who know what they are doing know the rules and know what is possible and impossible. You do not, and you should not. The rules on what is possible and impossible in the arts were made by people who had not tested the bounds of the possible by going beyond them. And you can. All right. So we're going to put our handy dandy clippy clippy in here so that we can have that page open. We're going to color this pretty angel if I don't hurt myself. Because that almost hurt. The Evazar London color pencils are a wax-based pencil, and they do color very nicely. Let's see if I can find my swatch. There it is. So they have a really good range of colors as well, with our skin tones into the yellows, our peach tones into the yellows and oranges, reds, pinks, purples, blues, blue-greens, greens, green blues, and then into our browns, grays, and blacks. So there is a really good amount of color variation here. It is 130 pencils, so if you don't have a good color variation with 130 pencils, you might have some issues with your build for your pencils. Just saying. Even with 120 pencils, if you don't have a good amount of each color, then you might want to rethink what you did. All right, so they come in this wonderful little case. The case is single slotted, which is great. I have heard complaints on the thinness of the case. The case is kind of thin, but I kind of like it because then I can maneuver it better. It does have cushioning on both the front and the back. The sides being thin doesn't bother me. The trays that they're in is quite stiff and sturdy, and that's all that matters to me. All right, so we're going to start with this angel. And I'm going to switch it over to the close-up camera so you can see what I'm doing. All right, so we're going to start with her face. And we're going to start with coral. And I'm going to grab my pencil sharpener. And I'm not using my watercolor one. Make sure that if you are going to designate one pencil sharpener for your watercolor where you can utilize that watercolor shavings, that you don't use your other pencils in it. Because, yeah, that could get messy. Alright, so I'm just going to do the shadow area. So the Avisar pencils do pretty good on this paper so far. Not having any lack of color, or and they are a wax-based pencil as well. And I know that last week I had a coupon for them. Unfortunately, the coupon has expired. However, there is a sale going on them right now on Amazon. So I think they're 20% off, something like that. Instead of $79, they're $55 or something like that. They are listed on the deals of the day, posting on the community tab if anybody is interested. All right, so there is the beginning of our skin tone. The next one we're going to use, of course, is going to be a light salmon. Going right over the coral and bringing that color out. Very lightly, just building that color up. Now, because these are a wax-based pencil, just like the Prismas and other wax-based pencils, you can blend them together with just a bit of pressure on your hand. The only thing I would suggest with that is make sure that you are done coloring first, because you want some tooth left in your page if you've still got other colors to put on. So I'm just going to do the inside here with that light salmon, like so, and then also down here on her foot. And then we're going to take our lightest color, which is peaches and cream, and we're just going to blend them all together. Now, if this was a larger picture, I would have used a grade purple or grade lavender for the shadow areas of the skin. However, it's a very small amount of skin, and getting too many layers on this book is not good. It won't take it. So minimizing the amount of layers and maximizing the amount of color I can put down. It's best just to start with my darkest skin color that I'm going with. All right. Okay, so there is our skin. Now I'm going to leave my white out because I want the white for the wings as well as her dress. But we're going to do her hair first, and we're going to start with this one here, because we're going to do her blonde. So we're going to start with clotted cream. And I'm just going to fill that whole area in. Now these are a bit harder than, say, the Prismas or things like that, so you can definitely layer as well as flick. So if you've got hair to do, you are going to be able to flick that color in there. Alright, now we're going to take the flicking color. Speaking of flicking, it's time to flick. So we're going to take mustard yellow, and we're just going to put some of that color in there. Now, one thing that I will say about these pencils, just like many other wax-based pencils is they do not keep their point very long. So make sure that you're turning your pencil as you color. It does prolong that point a little bit. So if you do find that you're sharpening a lot, you may not be turning your pencil enough. It of course depends upon your pressure and that sort of thing as well. But if you have a fairly light hand and you find that you are still sharpening your pencil a lot, then you need to start turning your pencil a little bit as you're coloring, which maintains that point just a little bit longer. All right. Now we're going to go in with a light brown. As soon as I get to them. All right, so now we're going to go in with caramel. Caramel. Never know how to say that. Caramel. All right, so I've got a really, really fine point on this. And I'm trying to be careful because my paper has slipped, so I've got a ridge from the paper. And I'm just dragging some of that color out from the lines that are in there. Oh, looks like I broke my tip. So as you can see, as long as you turn your pencil, you can pretty much keep that tip in there as well. Because I did break the tip using my sharpener. Now I have horrible luck sharpening, especially wax-based or soft-based pencils with a handheld sharpener. So the fact that I broke my tip of the pencil does not reflect completely on the pencil. It may just be because of the way I sharpen pencils. Most wax-based pencils don't like me and a handheld sharpener. I'm just saying. Alright, so there's her hair all done. And I'm going to resharpen this before I put it back in my pouch, because if I don't, I will go to use it and it will not have a tip. So I'm just going to use my hand sharpener, the hand crank, and it's perfectly fine in there. Alright, so there is our hair. Now we're going to do her gown. So we have a nice light blue. And I think this is the one I want. Yes. So this is called Arctic Blue. And I'm just going to do the shadowy areas in the Arctic Blue. And then we'll go over it with white. And again, going into that crease. Make sure that I'm on screen for you. And as you can see, that color is quite vibrant. Even on this paper, I'm able to get that color to stand out. Now this is a very light blue, So getting the color to stand out like it is really actually quite good. Like I said, it is a very light color, so. And it's going to get lighter still because we're going to be adding the white to it. So that's why I'm pressing a little bit harder instead of building that color up, because I want that to be quite thick on the page for when we start adding that white. Okay, and then we're going to add the white. And most people sit there going, well, do I need to add white if the page is white? My response to this is always yes. Basically what happens with white is not only does it help you blend, but it also protects that area from anything else that may get on it. So if you're, for example, coloring the whites of somebody's eyes, but you don't want, and then you're going over it with, say, black, and all you want to show is the person's eyes, then you color over them with white, and the white will stand out against the rest of the area you've colored. Now, as you can see, the page itself is not perfectly white, so having that white on there does help the dress stand out. Okay. Just being more careful in that area because of the edge of that paper. Now the reason why I have the paper underneath it is because with this type of paper and with this paper itself, if you don't use something underneath it, you are going to end up tearing through the page or moving the color from one page to another. All right, so I'm going to take some marine blue, and we're going to color this hand here, a monstrous hand, with a little bit of marine blue, just so it stands out a little bit. And then we're going to go over it with some black. Okay, so let's use rich black for that. Oh, sorry. Like so. Like the evil hand of knowledge is grabbing hold, or the evil hand of misconception and rules is grabbing hold. And of course, she is avoiding it. And I don't blame her. Rules are not fun sometimes. They are necessary sometimes, but they're not fun. All right, so now we're going to do the wings, and I've got cloud gray here. And I'm just going to come through and do the shadowy, feathery areas of the wings. I'll move that. Like so. And then again, we're going to take our white and we're going to blend that yellow, that gray in. To the rest of the wing here. It's hard to color when your hand is stuck in a position that it's not comfortable in. Alright, and now we're just going to take a little tiny bit of pink. We're going to do her lips. Like so. Okay, now I'm going to switch it over to the main camera here so you can see what we've done. So again, it says, first of all, when you start out on a career in the arts, you have no idea what you are doing. This is great. People who know what they are doing know the rules and know what is possible and impossible. You do not, and you should not. The rules on what is possible and impossible in the arts were made by people who had not tested the bounds of the possible by going beyond them. And you can. So that is our Art Matters for the day. Of course, the reason why we're doing Art Matters is because art matters. Your imagination can change the world, as Neil Gaiman says. And this book was gifted to me year before last when I started 100 Days of Hugs. And I promised the person that gifted it to me that I would color this whole book. So I decided that I was going to take you all on the journey with me. So we have almost, 3/4 of it done. We've still got quite a bit still to do, but we do have quite a bit of it done. So that was the Eva Czar London colored pencils that we colored that with. Again, a really nice little set of pencils, and well, can't even really say little because they are 130 pencils. They are a wax-based pencil and they do color quite nicely. I did think that maybe they were going to be like every other new set out there and just a knockoff of another Chinese brand. But these do seem to have their own attributes, their own personality, so to speak. So I'm quite pleased with them. All right, guys, with that, I would like to say thank you all very much for watching. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I hope to see you this evening. I'm not going to post the live stream until almost time for the live stream, just to A, make sure that I'm feeling up to it this afternoon, and B, to make sure I have power. We have a storm coming through, and we may actually lose power, so I want to make sure that that's not going to happen before I schedule things and then have to cancel them because, yeah, I don't like canceling on you guys. All right, guys, with that, always remember to like, comment, and subscribe to any YouTube artist that you enjoy. And always remember to relax, color, and stay safe, everyone. Until later on this evening and next time. Bye bye for now.